Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Maseches Taanis, Daf Daled. We begin 4 lines from the top of the Amud. Says the Gemara, V'amar Rava, Hay tzura b'mirabonon. At times, perhaps you'll notice a young Talmud Chacham, de Rasach, who's showing signs of irritation. Well, there's no excuse, but there is a limud schus. Perhaps it's the Torah within him, Oiraisa, the Torah within him is making him more sensitive and prone to slight irritation. Hashem says, my words of Torah are equated to fire, and that perhaps is instigating this irritation and bringing about this anger. Of course, it's not an excuse, as Rashi will tell us. Rashi off to the right. How does the Torah bring about this result? Because it generates a broadness of understanding, a broadness of heart, which makes him more in tune and more sensitive than other people. He pays more attention to detail, and perhaps that's what's bringing about this irritation. The point of the Gemara is not to justify, but to tell us, don't meant to judge him favorably. The chayavin l'duina l'kavschus, be done l'kavschus. There's a reason, there's something there that's pushing him to be more detail-oriented and perhaps prone to irritation, which of course he's meant to overcome. In fact, the Rambam brings in Hilchos Mada that there are 2 things that a person should never get involved in whatsoever: haughtiness, gava, and anger. And even if at times the Rebbe has to display, or the father has to display anger towards the Talmud or the child, it's only an external show. Of course, eternally is totally at ease and calm. But in any case, if it happens with a young Talmud Chacham whose blood is boiling with Torah, be melamed schus on him. Continues the Gemara. V'amar Vash, Kol Talmud Chacham she'eini kasha kebarzel. If a Talmud Chacham doesn't have the fierceness, the harshness of steel, of metal, Rashi says, Kabdonim v'kashim kebarzel, strong on principle like barzel, eini Talmud Chacham, he doesn't qualify. Shenamar v'kepatish, like a metal hammer, yifoytzeitz selam, and this is a person, a Talmud Chacham who's engaged in Torah, should have that element of consistency and strength. Amalei Rav Abba Rav Ashi, Atun you mehosam masnisula. You derive this concept from the pasuk that you just mentioned. Ukepatish yifoytzeitz selam. However, Anan, we had a different source for the same concept. We came from the following pasuk to show us that a Talmud Chacham is meant to have that harshness and that fierceness, consistency, unwavering commitment to what he stands for, and that's equated to barzel. The Eretz Asher Avoneho Barzel. The pasuk in describing Eretz Yisrael says its stones are like metal. Avoneho Barzel. Now, instead of saying Avoneho Ki Barzel, are equated to Barzel, it says Avoneho Barzel. Their stones are metal. All stones are stones and not metal. Al Tikri Avoneo. Instead of learning Kipshuta, we have a drasha. Instead of saying Avoneo Barzel, we say Elaboineha. It's builders. Rashi says, who are the builders? Talmidei Chachamim, who are mekayim the world. They sustain the existence of the world. They are called the Boinei Ha'olam. So Avoneo, the Boinim, the Talmidei Chachamim, have to exhibit at times this characteristic of barzel, consistency, and unwavering commitment to Torah ideals. Amar Ravin, afilu hochi, even though we speak about being strong, exhibiting signs of barzel, but mibayle inish, a person is required to do what? Lemelaf nafshe, to train himself, binichusa, to conduct himself softly. So although he should have that unwavering commitment to his ideals, be kasha kebarzel, without compromise, but be soft, be pleasant. Shenamar v'hoser ka'as milabecha, remove any anger from one's heart. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. We find that there were 3 people, Shloisha, Shalu Shalei Kohagen. they requested something inappropriately. They had an inappropriate quest. L'shnaim, regarding two of them, Hishivu Kohagen, they were responded to properly, meaning they were lucky that Hashem responded to them in a proper way and they got what they needed. Le'echad, however, to the third one, Hishivu Shloi Kohagen, he was responded to in a less than ideal way. Ve'eluhein, what are these three people? Number one, Eliezer Eved Avram, when he was sent out to find a shidduch for Rivka. Vishol ben Kish, and the third one was Veyiftach HaGiladi. The Gemara explains, Eliezer Eved Avram, D'chsiv, so he went out to Aram Naharaim, and he was searching for a kala for Yitzchak, and he said, look, whoever shows signs of generosity and chesed, she's the one. How does he know who it's going to be? Perhaps not somebody fitting for a tzaddik like Yitzchak. So he said, V'hoya Nara, this Nara, Asher Omer Eleh Hatino Kadich, the one who I'll ask for help and will offer generously, I'm going to take her as a wife for Yitzchak. Well, that's not really a perfect equation there. Yochel afilu chigeres, afilu suma, perhaps she'll show up as a limp or as somebody who's blind. So his presentation wasn't really a proper presentation. I'm going to take the one that's going to be generous. Why are you taking a risk? And what happened? He was lucky. His shivu kohagen, he was responded to. His request was fulfilled properly. The schus of Yitzchak and Avram. Rivka. Who came forward? Rivka Imenu. So you got the perfect response for an imperfect request. Number 2 on the list is Shaul ben Kish. The Chsiv, it says when they were battling Goliath, he presented a challenge. V'haya ha'ish asher yakenu, the fellow who will defeat Goliath, yashrenu hamelech ishur gadol. He will be given great riches. Ve'ezbitoi yitanloi, he will marry the daughter of the king. How could he present such an ultimatum? How does he know the person is going to be an appropriate match for his daughter? Perhaps it's going to be an Eved who's going to defeat Goliath. He'll be stuck with him as a son-in-law. Afilu mamzer. And what happened? He was lucky. He got somebody right on the money. Who was it? David. And David HaMelech ended up defeating Goliath and marrying his daughter. So he was lucky this time around. However, in the third case, we find that an imperfect quest resulted in an imperfect response. Yiftach HaGiladi, T'chsiv, when they were battling Ammon, he promised to Hashem and he says, look, the first one out of the door of my home, I'm going to bring him as a korban. He figured it would be a cow, a sheep, but he wasn't really paying attention. Perhaps something inappropriate, a dog, a non-kosher animal will come out first. He'll be stuck with that as a korban. So he should have been more careful in his wording. And what happened indeed? He was responded to. His result was a sad result. His own daughter came out of the door and he was stuck. He was committed to bringing her as an oilan. Some Mepharshim say that she just sat for the rest of her life, unmarried, dedicated to Hashem's service. So he should have worded his commitment, his promise, more carefully. And as a result of this, the Navi tells Yisrael, we're going to see in Rashi, the context of this conversation, that the Bnei Yisrael were bringing their children as korbanos to Avodah Zarah, and Hashem tells Yisrael, well, what are you doing? Hatzari ein begilad, imroifei ein sham. This was specifically regarding Yiftach, that. So this was actually regarding Yiftach. The next passage is regarding the Avodah Zarah. This was regarding Yiftach. He says, Hatzari ein begilad. Don't we have any sap, any medicine in Gilad? Imroifei ein sham. Is there no doctor there? This was referring to Pinchas, Kohen Gadol, who was in Gilad, and Yiftach could have easily addressed his neder, be mater neder, by going over to Gilad to visit the Roifei. In this case, Pinchas, who could have annulled his neder. This is not what I had in mind. My own daughter as a korban. He could have taken care of it, but the Mepharshim say there was a turf war. Yiftach says, look, I'm not going to go to Gilad, I'm a shayfet, I don't belong traveling to the Kayin. And Pinchas likewise says, look, I'm a Navi, I don't belong traveling to Yiftach. And Taisus brings the Medrash that they both were punished, and Pinchas lost his Ruach HaKodesh. In any case, this is in reference to the sad story of Yiftach committing his own daughter as a korban. Uksiv, and likewise the Pasuk says, and this is where the Pasuk is referring to the Avodah Zarah that the Yisrael were worshipping through their korbanos, bringing their own children. And Hashem says, look, Ashalot Tzivisi, it's not something I ever commanded anybody to do. Bring your own korbanos, your own children as korban. I never said anything. V'lo dibarti, I never spoke about it. V'lo also alibi, I never had a notion that this should ever happen. And the Arichus in the Pasuk is actually referring to a couple of separate incidents as follows. Ashalot Tzivisi, I never commanded one to bring his child as a korban. It's referring specifically to Zeb Benoi, the son of Shalmeisha, Melech Moav. So this king of Moav, Meisha, brought his own son as a korban to Hashem. I never had that in mind. Don't bring people as korbanis. Shanama Vayikach Bnei Bechor brought his eldest son, Hashim Lech Tachtav, the one who was meant to take over the kingdom after him. Vayaleu Oila, and he brought him as an Oila. Ashaloi Tzivis, he said Hashem, never had this in mind. V'lo dibarti, I never spoke about something like this. Ze Yiftach, referring to Yiftach's story, where he ended up setting aside his own daughter as sort of a korban to Hashem. It's not what I had in mind. It never entered my heart. What does this mean? Yitzchak ben Avraham. Even though I told Avraham to bring his son Yitzchak, but the truth is, I never meant that it should really be ending up as a korban. It was only presented as a challenge, as an assignment to test his commitment and loyalty. So these things are not meant to be done, people as korbanos. And therefore, in our case as well, by Yiftach HaGiladi, he should have found his way around this commitment and be matir his neder. Let's go over to Rashi around 7-8 lines up. Uksiva Shalot Tzivisi. Explains Rashi, what's the background of the story? Beyirim Yoksiv, Parshas Bakbuk, Ubunai. Bakbuk was the name of the king. Sorry, Parshas Bakbuk, there was a story in Nach Ubonu as Bamos. So they built Bamos for this Avodah Zarah, Lisreif es Bnei Beish. Ashalot Tzivisi, Hashem saying, what are you serving this bakbuk with your children? What do you have such a thing? Ashalot Tzivisi, v'le dibarti, v'le osa alibi. Now, Shalot Taimi. Hashem is telling you, look, don't think, Halot Tziva k'moikin Hashem liyiftach. Bringing children as korban, that is part of our repertoire. Look, Hashem told Yiftach to do so. Umeisha, that was the king of Moav, likewise, Vavram, he as well, was meant to bring his child as a korban. Responds the Navi, not so. It never came from me. I never was mitzaveh l'meisha lisrav es b'noi be'esh. T'chsev es b'noi ha'bechor ashim lech tachta v'yaleu oila l'chayma. Ula shamayim niskav, he meant it as a korban. K'savar ha'yil ratz l'kadosh baruch hu to please Hashem. V'hai t'chsev al sofro atzmais melech adam l'sid mos achritu. Okay, that's another parsha there. But in any case, Hashem is referring to that specific story of Misha Melech Moav. I never asked him to bring his child as a korban. Likewise, I never told Yiftach to do that. So the Targum makes negative mention of Yiftach and Pinchas in this parsha of his daughter. It's not meant to be so. Hashem doesn't want his daughter as a korban. Torah makes negative reference to the whole incident. Because they hesitated to visit each other's place. Yiftach didn't want to go to Pinchas. Pinchas didn't want to visit Yiftach. And the neder stood. Hashem doesn't want that neder to stand. You're not meant to sacrifice your own children. And likewise, also alibi, that's referring to Yitzchak ben Avram. Here's the chiddush. Even though I told him to bring his child as an oila, the truth is, I never meant that it should actually come into reality and it should be sheikhed his son. I just presented him with an assignment to test his resolve and commitment. You know why? There was a Satan there who says, look, where the Satan says, look, what was he makriv to you? What kind of commitment is there? And Hashem says, look, I'm gonna test him with his most cherished possession, his child. And look, he's going to follow through with flying colors. And indeed, the fact that he acquiesced, the fact that he was willing to bring his son, and he actually was holding at the last moment before Hakrava, that in itself was the test that he was meant to pass, but no more than that. I never actually meant he should bring his child as a korban. Okay, so in any case, we have a list of 3 individuals who were shaloi kahegin. 2 of them were lucky, and they were responded to favorably. Eliezer, when he went to search for a mate for Yitzchak, he found Rivka Imenu, and Shaul and Kish was lucky to come up with David HaMelech as a son-in-law, but Yiftach, he was not as lucky. And the lesson from this Gemara perhaps is that, we daven that Hashem should be memale mish'alos libeinu l'tova. All the Mepharshim explained that the person doesn't really know what he needs. We're meant to ask, that's part of tefillah. But we also ask that Hashem should only fulfill our request if it is l'tova. In fact, the Rambam, in Pirush HaMishnah and Brachos, the ideal tefillah, he says, is, Hashem, you know where I'm headed for, you know what my mission in life, you know what I need. Please, Hashem, provide everything, whether it's in the physical realm or in the ruchnistic realm, beruchnis begashmis, provide everything I need in order that I achieve the shleimus ha'amiti and eternal bliss. That's all. That's the most powerful tefillah. Hashem, you know what I need for eternity. Give me what I need. This way, you're not taking any chances of she'ila shaloi kahegin. In fact, in Farshim speak, when a person is asking for a shidduch, you should not request for a specific person. You never know if it's good for you. A general request, a general tefillah, Hashem, provide me with my shidduch, whatever is good for me, I'd like to have that. Continues the Gemara. Amar brech, av knesses Yisrael shalosh leikahikin. We find a 4th example of an inappropriate request voiced by Knesset Yisrael, and they were lucky once again. Hashem responded properly. Shanamar, v'neda nirda v'ladas Hashem. We're trying to search, find Hashem, keshachar nochen meitzoy, like the first ray of light during sunrise. V'yavik geshem lanu, by connecting to Hashem, we'd like to have that abundance of bracha coming from Hashem, a bracha equated to rain. Oh, that was the request. Now, this wasn't really a complete, proper request. Why? Hashem turns to Yisrael and says, Biti, my daughter, Atshay Elas Dover, you're asking for something. You're equating it to rain. Now, rain is seasonal. Sometimes it's welcome during the rain season. At times during summer season, it's not something that's needed or welcome. It's seasonal. So you presented your request in this manner, but I'm going to respond more. I'm going to provide you with more. Dover hamispakish lo'olam, with a bracha which is constant, always needed, always appreciated. Shanamar eya ketal li Yisrael. My bracha will be like dew, which is something constant. V'oid sh'ala shloi kahegin. Another example of an inappropriate request was as follows. Amr lefanav, Klal Yisrael turns to Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom. Simeni kachesem alibecha. I want to be cleaving to you, I want to be close to you, like a seal, like a stamp on your heart, like on your arm. Hashem turns to Yisrael, Biti, my daughter. Atshay Elas Dover, you're asking for something. At times it's visible and seen. If it's uncovered, it's seen. When it's covered with clothing, it's not seen. So that's not really a full, complete request. I'm going to provide you with something more than that. Something which is visible and seen all the time. I'll engrave you on a palm which is always uncovered and seen, something constant and eternal. Okay, so we spoke about Talmud Chacham was perhaps exhibiting slight irritation. Generally, he's meant to be consistent and unwavering, but exhibits softness and pleasantness. Haser kas milibecha. We find several examples of a she'ela shloi kahegin, and for the most part, they were lucky to get their request fulfilled properly. Says the Gemara, Ein she'elin is akshamim, and the Mishnah says you're meant to start asking for rain. Elo samach l'kshamim, close to the start of the rain season. Savru, the Bnei Yeshiva figured, when we speak about she'ela, it's the same as haskara. She'ela v'haskara chad milsehi. Ein she'elin is akshamim means you only start mentioning Geshem, Mashiv Ruach Mer Geshem, in your tefillah when it's close by to the rain season. Montana, who's speaking here, that starts the She'ela, which really means Haskara at this point in the Gemara, at the end of the Yom Tov, at the end of Sukkot, which is beginning of rain season. Montana, Amarava, apparently Rabbi Yeshua, it must be Rabbi Yeshua speaking. The Amar, when do you start mentioning rain? Mish'as HaNachasa, when you put down the lulav at the end of Sukkot. So you start Haskara and She'ela at that point. Amar Abaye responds to Rava, Afilo Tema Reb Lezer, you know what, this could be even Reb Lezer speaking. Although Reb Lezer starts Haskara at the beginning of Sukkot, well, it's two things. She'ela l'chud, asking for rain, is one thing, and that starts at the end of Sukkot, at the beginning of the rain season. Haskara l'chud, the mentioning of Mashiv Haruach Mer Geshem, is something else, and that starts at the beginning of Yom Tov. You give yourself enough time to be ma'orer, to evoke Ratzon and favor and bracha in advance of the She'ela, which will only start at the end of Sukkot. There was another version, a slightly different version of this Gemara. It wasn't Rava starting it off, it was rather Lema. The Gemara said maybe Rabbi Shua, perhaps when the Mishnah says She'ela starts at the end of Sukkot, which the Gemara figures is synonymous with Haskara, it's one and the same thing. It's Rabbi Shua speaking. The Amar Mishas HaNachasa, you only begin Haskara at the end of Yom Tov. Amar Rava, it was Rava who responded and said, no, Afilu Tema Reb Lezer, you know what? This can be even Reb Lezer speaking. She'ela l'chud, She'ela is independent from Haskara. She'ela starts at the late point, at the end of Sukkot, right at the beginning of the rain season. Haskara l'chud, whereas mentioning Geshem starts way back at the beginning of Yom Tov, to prepare for the She'ela, which comes only at the end. We have Shittas Rabbi Yehuda in the end of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Oivil Fnei HaTeva. So the Chazan, at the end of Sukkot, he splits the day into two. The Baal Shachris will not mention anything, but the Baal Musaf will start his Haskara of Mashiv Ruach Mer Geshem. The Gemara figures, Haskara and She'ela happen at the same time. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you start at the second part of Shmini Atzeres of Sukkot. And regarding stoppage, when do you stop mentioning rain? At the beginning of Pesach, on the first day of Pesach. So it's the Baal Shachars who maintains the Haskara and the She'ela, whereas the Baal Musaf drops it. Says the Gemara V'Raminu, we have a kasha from another Mishnah, where we find Rabbi Yehuda saying something else. Ad Mosei Shoylim Sagsham, until what point do you request rain? Not until day one of Pesach, rather, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ad Sheyavra Pesach, until Pesach is over. So you maintain the reference to rain all throughout Pesach. You don't stop on day one. Rabbi Omer, Ad Sheyavra Nisan, until Nisan is over. So we have a stira between Rabbi Yehuda over here in our Mishnah. You stop Geshem day one of Pesach. Rabbi Yehuda in the next Mishnah, you stop Geshem at the end of Pesach. The answer is Kan Lishael, Kan Lahaska. Very simple. Let's split asking She'ela from simply mentioning. It's two different things. Kan Lishael, Kan Lahaska. As the Gemara explains, Mishal Shoel V'Azel. When it comes to asking, you keep on asking. Shoel V'Azel. You go all the way to the end of Pesach. However, Lahaska, regarding mentioning rain, B'Yom Tov Harishon Pasuk, you stop at day one of Pesach. Amar Ula, I don't understand this. Hadar of Chizah, this suggestion made by Rav Chizda is very difficult to understand. Kasha is as difficult k'chimetz l'shenayim, like vinegar, which grits the teeth, u'k'ashn l'shenayim, smoke in one's eyes. How do you understand this split between She'ela and Haskara? You mean to say that you stop mentioning rain at the beginning of Pesach, but you continue asking for it? Well, if the rain season is over, you no longer have a need for it. The fact is, you're stopping the Haskara. Why would you continue asking for it throughout Pesach? And he presents it with the Kal Vachomer. There's an irony here. Look, in a place, at a time during the year, when She'ela has not been activated at that point, still masker, you still start mentioning. So he means that Yom Tov Ha'achron, right, the last day of Shmini Atzeres. What happens then, according to Rabbi Yehuda? At Musaf, you start mentioning. But She'ela, does that happen at that point? No, Rashi explains, it's still Yom Tov. There's no Baruch Aleinu, there's no bracha to have She'ela, the same Talamata inserted into it. So Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, you have Haskara without She'ela. So Haskara precedes She'ela, and that makes sense, because, as we explained yesterday, Haskara is meant to be ma'ire ratzon, to evoke a bracha and a favor in advance of requesting. So it makes sense that on Shmini Atzeres, of Musaf Shmini Atzeres, you have Zechiro without She'ela. Uma b'makom, since we find a place She'en is She'el, there is no She'ela. Ma'askir is still mentioned, so Askara precedes She'ela. B'makom she'shoyel, in a place where you have the She'ela, such as, according to what we said, you're going to have She'ela throughout Pesach, according to Rav Chizda, Ein Adin She'en Maskir, certainly, of course, you should mention rain. How can you drop rain on the first day of Pesach, not mention it any longer to indicate you don't need the rain, and continue asking for rain all throughout Pesach? It doesn't make sense. Elamar Ula says, Rula, I'll try to resolve this apparent stira between the two Rabbi Yehudas. Yehuda by us, who says you stop the rain, you stop mentioning Geshem at the beginning of Pesach, and the Mishnah further down, which speaks about Ad Sheyavar HaPesach. Amar Ula Trei Tanoi, our leader Rabbi Yehuda, in fact, is Machlekes Tanoim in terms of Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The two versions of Rabbi Yehuda. According to one school of thought, you stop day one of Pesach. According to the other approach, you wait until the end of Pesach. Rabbi Yosef Amar, he's going to attempt to resolve it differently. Both the same sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. You meant to stop Haskoras HaGeshem and She'elas HaGeshem at the beginning of Pesach. My Ad Sheyavar Pesach. What then does the Mishnah mean that you continue until Pesach is over? Ad Sheyavar Shliach Tzibur Harishon. It means like this: until the first Chazan Hayored B'Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach. That first Chazan on the first day of Pesach finishes his tefillah until he walks away from the Amud. You continue mentioning Geshem, but once that's done, when Shachris is over, rain's over. Which is exactly like Rabbi Yehuda now Mishnah. So Ad Sheyavar Pesach doesn't mean the Yom Tov of Pesach. It means the first Chazan on the first day of Pesach finishes his tefillah. That's the end of the rain season. Amli Abaye, She'ela b'Yom Tov mi'ika? What do you mean? You continue asking until Sheyavar Pesach, which means that the Chazan davening Shachris on day one of Pesach will continue mentioning and asking for rain. She'ela b'Yom Tov mi'ika. Do you have She'elas Geshem on the Shachris of Pesach until Yom Tov tefillah without Baruch Aleinu? Amar lei, Rav Yosef responds, Ilya She'el Meturgman. Although the Chazan will not mention in his tefillah, but the Meturgman, the interpreter, the one who announces the drasha, Chachamim will institute a practice where the announcer will get up and say Baruch Aleinu and Mesein Talmatul Avracha. So it's not the Chazan, it's the Meturgman. How can that be? We're going to institute a takana where the Meturgman gets up and presents a request for rain, which the tzibur doesn't need anymore. Rain season is over. Why would he have to get up and make a special announcement? We need rain. You see, really, we should have stopped the night before, as we explained the other day, V'shem the Toises, Yerushalmi. We want everybody to be around, to be present when we make that institute that new nusach of dropping the rain or starting rain. So really, the rain season's been over yesterday. Ma'ariv is really the time to stop, but we want to keep it, maintain it in place until everybody shows up and we make that public announcement. But to go institute a new takana, the Turk should get up and say, Hashem, we need rain, it's out of place. Apparently the correct approach is Ula's approach. We had a stira, Rabbi Yehuda in the Almish, Navbei says, you stop Geshem day one of Pesach. Mishnah Naf Hay speaks about Ad Sheyavar Pesach, until the Yom Tov is over. Two shitas, two versions of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabba Amar, I'm going to suggest another solution to this stira. My Ad Sheyavar Pesach. You know what that means? Not the Yom Tov is over. Ad Sheyavar Zman Shchitas HaPesach. It means like this. That once the Zman of Shchitas HaPesach, which begins at Chatzois and Erev Pesach, passes you by, meaning you're past the beginning of the Zman Shchitas Pesach, you're past Chatzois, you're past Shachris of Erev Pesach, you stop mentioning Geshem. Which basically means that you're going to mention Geshem, for the last time, Shachris of Erev Pesach. But Mincha of Erev Pesach, you no longer mention Geshem, and no longer request V'sein Talamata. Actually, sorry. Rashi explains like this, that you're going to continue mentioning Masha Baruch Merda Geshem up until and including tomorrow's Shachris, right? As we had in the Mishnah Beis, the Baal Shachris on day 1 of Pesach will continue mentioning Masha Baruch Merda Geshem for the last time. But when it comes to She'ela requesting V'sein Talamot Levracha, you stop. The last time is Shachris of Erev Pesach. And that's what he meant. Until what point are you shoyel the Geshem? At Sheyavra Pesach, until the Zman, the first point of Zman Shchitas Pesach, which is Chatzos Erev Pesach, passes you by. So you're past Chatzos, meaning you're past Shachris. Shachris is the last time you ask for rain. Once Mincha comes around, there's no longer a V'sein Talamatar there. However, when it comes to mentioning rain, Mashiv Ruch Mer Geshem, that stays in place until tomorrow morning. The last time will be Shachris on day 1 of Pesach. Okay, so we have 2 separate halachas here. Hazkara is maintained until Shachris day 1 of Pesach, such as per our Mishnah Beis. Whereas when it comes to asking for rain, we stop a bit earlier. We stop Erev Pesach. That's Rabbi's idea, which provides a solution to this apparent stira between 2 Mishnahs. And the Gemara explains, why would I split the she'ela from the haskar? We're going to compare the beginning of the rain season, meaning at the end of Sukkot, Kain Seifai, to the end of the rain season, which is going to be Pesach time. So the beginning is just like the end. Just as when the rain season begins, meaning at the end of Sukkot, when you begin discussing rain, what happens then? Masker. You begin mentioning rain, even though there is no she'ela at that day, meaning, let's say you start the last day of Sukkot, right? Rabbi Yehuda says, the last day Shmini Atzeres, the Baal Musaf will start mentioning rain. Do you have she'ela there? Of course not. She'ela is only applicable during a weekday tefillah, where you have Baruch Aleinu. But Shmini Atzeres does not have that type of tefillah. You don't have she'ela there. So you're starting Hazkara before she'ela. Masker, Af B'Shein She'el. Av Sofer, likewise. At the end of the rain season, Pesach time, you'll also have the same concept. Masker, you'll continue mentioning Af B'Shein She'el, even though you already stopped asking on Erev Pesach. You stop on Erev Pesach. But when it comes to Haskar, you continue into the first day of Pesach. Okay? So now we have a Teretz Kasha. We had a Mishnah of Beis that according to Rabbi Yehuda, Haskara is up until and including Shachars of day 1 of Pesach. We have a Mishnah of Hey, which says, Yushoilas Hageshem Achi Yavra Pesach. How does this work? She'ela is different than Haskara. You stop She'ela on Erev Pesach. As soon as you enter this Zman Shchitas Pesach, meaning Mincha on Erev Pesach, there is no She'ela. Whereas Haskara is maintained until Shachars of day 1 of Pesach. Why would you split Haskara from She'ela? Well, just as you do that at the end of the rain season, Sukkot time. What happens on Shmini Atzeres? You start Haskara by Musaf without She'ela. So you see Haskara can work without She'ela here as well. Although you stop She'ela on Erev Pesach, but the Haskara continues, extends into the first day of Pesach. How could you compare the 2 things? The end season, beginning of the season. Bishleim etchilas, I understand. At the beginning of the rain season, at the end of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, it makes sense that you would start mentioning before asking. Masker. Why? Haskara, Nami Ritzu She'ela. Remember, Haskara is meant to bring down the Shefa, to generate Ratzon and favor in Hashem's eyes. So before you ask something, you attribute it to Hashem, you bond to Hashem, you recognize it's from Hashem, and that allows you, enables you to go and ask for it. So it makes sense to start Haskara before She'ela. Haskara is Ritzu She'ela. It's Meratza for the upcoming She'ela. Ela Seifei. When it comes to the end of the season, Pesach time, my Ritzu She'ela Ika. What do you have Ritzu for She'ela? You're done asking. On Erev Pesach, why would you continue mentioning rain into Pesach? El Machavarta Kedu Ula. Let's go back. Apparently the correct approach is Ula's approach. We really have a real stira going. We have a Mishnah Daf Beis that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you stop on the first day of Pesach. Mishnah Daf Hey that you stop after Pesach. The Gemara assumes Haskara and She'ela go side by side, hand in hand. It's a stira, two versions of Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rabbi Asi Rabbi Yechanan. In fact, halacha Rabbi Yehuda, the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda, that we split the day into two. When it comes to starting on Shmini Atzeres, we start at Musaf. When it comes to ending, we end Shachris of day one of Pesach. Amalei Rabbi Zeru Larvasi. Umi Amar Rabbi Yechanan Hachi. Is that so? The Rabbi Yechanan follows Rabbi Yehuda? So you start the Haskara and the She'ela of Geshamim on the last day of Sukkot, Vatanan. B'shleishim Cheshvan. Shalanas Hagshamim. You only begin asking for rain on the third of Cheshvan, which is the beginning of the rain season. Rama Gamliel. I remember Shiva, you wait until the 7th of Cheshvan. Bomer Belazar, Halach Rama Gamliel. We follow Gamliel. We start asking only 7 of Cheshvan. And here Rabbi Yechanan tells us we follow Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara assumes that if he says Halach Rabbi Yehuda, that's the accepted Halach, accepted approach. You start on Shmini Atzeres, or She'ela would be a day later, once you get to the weekday tefillah, but not Mar Cheshvan 7. Hamalei, Rav Asi responds, Gavra Karambis. You mean to ask a kasha from one person on the other? A difference of opinion regarding the halacha l'mais. Rabbi Yechanan follows Rabbi Yehuda. He started Shmini Atzeres. Rabbi Lezer follows the other Shittir Gamliel. He started on 7 of Mar Cheshvan. Another possible answer would be Kasha. The answer is Kon Lishol Kon Lahaskar. Let's split the She'ela from the Haskar. So perhaps Rabbi Yechanan agrees that She'ela begins Mar Cheshvan 7. He was speaking about Haskara. He says, Halach Rabbi Yehuda, that the Haskara begins Shmini Atzeres, as we explained earlier, because the Haskara is meant to be Ma'ir Ratzon, find favor, and bring about the bracha, which will happen through the She'ela later on. So Haskara is Shmini Atzeres, She'ela is Zayd Mar Cheshvan. So everything works. Says the Gemara, that can't work. Rabbi Yechanan himself tells us, the She'ela and Haskara go hand in hand. When you start asking, that's when you start mentioning rain. Ahulav Saka Itmar. That statement, She'ela and Haskara go hand in hand. That wasn't referring to the beginning of the season, where Haskara certainly can precede the She'ela. He was speaking at the end of the season. So they both stop at the same time, at the beginning of Pesach. But Rabbi Yechanan himself tells us, even when it comes to initiating, it all happens at the same time. So the teretz falls off. You start mentioning rain, you start asking. When you stop asking, you start mentioning. So it's all hand in hand, it goes together. So back to the kasha. How can we say, on the one hand, Halach Rabbi Yehuda, we start Shmini Atzeres. Then we say, Halach Rabbi Gamliel, we start Zayd Mar Cheshvan. Allah kasha, the answer perhaps is as follows. Depends where you're living. Halon, when we speak about Zayd Mar Cheshvan, that's for us in Bavel, which is a more moist area. Our produce is still out in the fields. We need to give it some more time to dry. So we delay our request for rain. We're so confident that our request will generate and activate rain. We delay it. We don't want to ask prematurely. We don't need the rain at this point. We don't want it. It's not welcome. It's not appreciated. So we wait until Zayd Mar Cheshvan. Hallahu. Whereas Eretz Yisrael, it was more mountainous, more windy, more airy, and the produce would dry up quickly. They would ask earlier. They start requesting and mentioning rain at the end of Sukkot. So there's no stira whatsoever. Depends on your locale. In Babel you start later, and it's Yisrael earlier. Maishna l'didan. Why is it different by us? The Islam peri b'dabra. We have our peris, our produce sitting out in the field, in the farms, which delays our she'ela. Well, l'didu nami. Even those in Eretz Yisrael should delay. What about the other regalim? We have to make it back home safely. They should also be delaying their request for rain to allow their guests to return home safely without rain, without mishap. So why would they start earlier on Shmini Atzeres? Kikam Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, when he says you start at Shmini Atzeres, he's speaking Mizman She'ein Beis Hamikdash Kayim, when the Beis Hamikdash was no longer standing. So the Eiler Regel factor is not really relevant. And therefore, why not start your request for rain early in the season? Now that you've come to this point, that there's a difference between yes Beis Hamikdash and no Beis Hamikdash, let's come up with another solution to our stira. When is the Zman? Is it Shmini Atzeres? Is it Zayim Marcheshvan? The two, perhaps both Zmanim relate to Bnei Eretz Yisrael. For like Kasha, the answer is very simply: Kam bezman she Beis Hamikdash kaim. When there is a Beis Hamikdash, they have to delay until Zayim Marcheshvan to allow their guests a safe return home. Kam bezman she'ein Beis Hamikdash kaim. The earlier Zman relates to a point when there's no longer Beis Hamikdash, in which case the other regular factor is not relevant, and the Bnei Eretz Yisrael will start asking earlier in the season on Shmini Atzeres. So, conclusion: the Gemara all along figures, at least in the Maskana, that Haskara and She'ela go hand in hand. So when do we stop and when do we start? We are mafsik as follows. We actually had a stira. In our Mishnah we speak about stopping Musaf of day one of Pesach. In the next Mishnah we speak about continuing until after Pesach. The Gemara concludes that the most probable solution to this problem is there are two versions of Rabbi Yehuda's Shita. One maintains you stop day one of Pesach. The other one maintains you continue all throughout Pesach. When do you start mentioning rain? So we have once again a conflict between two Piskei Halacha. On the one hand, we see Halach Rabbi Yehuda that you start Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. On the other hand, we have a Psak. We follow Ram Gamliel. We start Zayin Cheshem. We have three possible solutions to this stira. The most simple approach is, well, Gavra Gavra Karamis. It's two different shitas here. Rabbi Yehuda Paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. You start Shmini Atzeres. Rabbi Lezer Paskin like Ram Gamliel. You start Zayin Cheshem. But then the Gemara says, you know what? Perhaps we can work it out. Rabbi Yehuda would agree to both Piskei Halacha. There are two separate zmanim, depending on your locale, depending on the era in history that we're dealing with. So the first pshat was, if you're in Eretz Yisrael, your tefillah dries early, you can start asking Shmini Atzeres. You're in Babel, you have to delay until Zayin Cheshvan. Another teretz can be, both zmanim relate to Eretz Yisrael. When there was no Mikdash, they can start asking earlier. When there was a Mikdash, they have to wait for the other Regalim to go back home and start asking only Zayin v'Marcheshvan. The Maisa, we actually split Haskara from She'ela. And Farshim endeavor to figure out how we see them in the Gemara, but that's the approach we adopt today. That Haskara and She'ela don't go hand in hand. And in fact, we start Haskara, we start mentioning Murda Geshem on Shmini Atzeres. Although She'ela waits until much later. In Eretz Yisrael they start earlier. In Chutz La'aretz we begin 60 days after the beginning of Tkufas Tishrei, which starts December 21st, so 60 days later, is the time for our She'ela as Hagshama. Continues the Gemara. Vanan, what about us in Chutz La'aretz? We went to start on Shmini Atzeres. Now, what is Shmini Atzeres? We have 2 days, Shmini Atzeres. We have Shmini Atzeres, which is a suffix day 7 or day 8. We have Simchas Torah, which is suffix day 8, day 9. So what's the starting point by us? Va'anan, the Islam Trayami, we have 2 days, which we celebrate at the end of Sukkot. What's considered our Yom Tov Achron? Hechi Abdin, what do we do? Amar Rav, so Rav adopted an interesting approach. He says, look, Ma'aschel b'Musafim. On the first day of that 2-day Yom Tov, which we call Shmini Atzeres, you start mentioning rain on Musaf. But then you stop, because perhaps it's really only day 7 of Sukkot. You're a day too early. U'poisav Mincha, Arvis, v'Shachris. You don't mention rain, Mincha, the following Arvis, the following Shachris, v'choyze b'Musaf, and you come back next day Musaf, on Simchas Torah, and you mention rain again. Ahamalu Shmuel turns to the Talmidim and he says, it doesn't really jive. Puka, go out, v'imrulei la'Abba, tell Abba, this is an honorable way of referring to him, Abba. Tell him, I don't agree with this approach. Once you turned it into a Yom Tov, you considered the first day as Shmini Atzeres. In fact, as you inaugurated your Haskaras Geshem, you're going to turn it into a weekday. You're going to say, no, maybe it's really only day 7, it's Chol HaMoed. have to be consistent. Once you consider it kodesh, keep at it. Elamar Shmuel, I prefer the following approach. Maskal b'musaf. You start mentioning Geshem, Musav of Shmini Atzeres, first day of that 2-day Yom Tov set. Ube Mincha, you continue into Mincha. You don't drop it. Continue into Mincha. But come nighttime, you stop. You don't want to be inconsistent as per that day itself. But come the next day, come that night, Upaisik Arvis v'Shachris. You no longer mention Geshem, Arvis v'Shachris. Perhaps the second day is really the Shmini Atzeres. When you come back around by Musav and you start Geshem again. Rav Amar, here's the third approach. No. Once you start, you don't stop. Rav Amar, once you start on the first day of Shmini Atzeres, keep on going. Don't show any inconsistencies which perhaps can lead to the masses taking the Yom Tov lightly. Look, it's Kodesh, it's not Kodesh. We had a similar Gemara in Beya where once you start observing Isra Malach on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, you don't stop, you don't drop it, you don't want to create zilzal. Kiva shehischol shuveni posik, v'chein Rav Sheshes kiva shehischol shuveni posik, v'av Rav Adar, even Rav himself was chayzer from the earlier Shita. He says no, once you start, you don't stop. Damar Chanan Amar Rav, moine esrim ve'echad yom. How do you know it's Shmini Atzeres? You count 21 days from the beginning of Tishrei, from day 1 of Rosh Hashanah, 21 days later, and 22 is Shmini Atzeres. Kederach shemoine asor yamim Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. Use the same formula as you apply to Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. How do you know it's Yom Kippur? You start from first day of Rosh Hashanah, even though you have perhaps 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, but really day 1 is the Ikar. In fact, Rashi says, we're proficient with the ways of the calendar. We know really day 1 of Rosh Hashanah is Aleph Tishrei. You count 1, 2 until you get to day 10, which is Yom Kippur, and then you continue 21, 22 is Shmini Atzeres. Umasli, you begin mentioning Geshem. Once you start, Shuveni Paisik, you no longer stop. And that in fact is the accepted halacha, as we do today. Kiva Shehischel Shuv any Paisik. Okay, let's do a quick chazar on today's daf. We started with a statement name of Rava, that a Tzur ben Rabban, a young Talmud Chacham, was blood is boiling with Torah. Klei dvorei ke'ishtam Hashem. There's room to be allowed a schus on him if you perhaps detect some signs of irritation and anger. Of course, it's not an excuse; it's never an excuse. But as a limit schus, it suffices. In fact, the Gemara continued, Talmud Chacham is meant to be firm, like Barzel, although he's meant to exhibit himself in a soft and pleasant manner. V'hasir kasim lebecha. Meant to be careful the way we word our requests to Hashem. We're meant to be shoyel kahegin, although many times we do find that Hashem did respond kahegin despite the fact that the request was not presented properly. We had a stira, a contradiction regarding both the aschola and the hefsek of sheila and askara of geshem, when you start, when you end. Regarding the end point, we had a stira between our Mishnah, which spoke about Musaf of Yom Echad of Pesach. We had the next Mishnah, which spoke about continuing until after Pesach. The Gemara concluded the most correct approach is that we're speaking about 2 different versions of Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. Regarding the starting point, once again we have a stira regarding halacha l'maisa. Rabbi Yechon says halacha Rabbi Yehuda, which means you start Shmini Atzeres of Shmini Atzeres and Musaf Shmini Atzeres, whereas we have another halacha in the name of Rabbi Lezer, halacha Gamliel, that we start Zayin Cheshvan. So we have 3 possible solutions to the problem. Either Gavra Agava Karamis, well, it reflects 2 different schools of thought. We have one approach which follows Rabbi Yehuda. You start Musaf of Ches of Sukkos. The other approach follows Rabbi Gamliel. You start later on, close by to the start of the rain season, which is Zayin B'Cheshvan. Or the Gemara says, you know what? Perhaps there's no real machlekes here. Rabbi Yechon would agree to both concepts. There's an earlier and a later Zman. Depends where you live. In Eretz Yisrael, you start earlier, and Bava you wait till everything dries up in the fields, and you start only Zayin Cheshvan, or both in Eretz Yisrael. It depends whether or not there's a Migdash Kayim. When there's a Migdash Kayim, you have to wait until later. When there's no Migdash, then you can start your She'ela Sageshem at the end of Sukkot. Regarding what to do in Chutz La'aretz, the halacha l'maisa is you start on Shmini Atzeres and Kiva Shehischel Shuv Einei Paisik. Kol to you and much hatzlacha.